Hey! Well, I'll be. Sir, who are you?
Oh, well, my name is Reginald Robinson. I go.
B?
I go. I typically use Reginald R. Robinson because there are other Reginald Robinsons around, so that distinguishes me. And sometimes people ask me, "What does the middle initial stand for?" And I would say, "Well,
None of their
ragtime."
business.
It's ragtime.
Okay,
Yeah.
ragtime.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, who am I? Well, I'm a self-taught musician. Was born and raised here in Chicago, Illinois, and I obviously that tune was composition by Scott Joplin, the great writer of ragtime, and that was his 1899 composition, Maple Leaf Rag. Well, it was published in 1899, but it's probably earlier from there than 1899. Yeah.
Well, ladies and
Maple
gentlemen,
Leaf.
I am
Right.
so thrilled. I have for my special guest this evening, Mr. Reginald R. Robinson, the one and only from Chicago. My dear friend, we go back so far. Right now, with dealing with this pandemic and everything, I don't know about your mind, but my mind is a little bit like foggy because we've all been traumatized and all that. But we're going to talk about that too, with that traumatization. Before we go any further, though, Reginald, I would like to give credit to thank the Department of Cultural Affairs, Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Last year, I got the Esteemed Artist Award to continue to keep my program and projects, keeping them alive and keeping artists and everyone who is part of the performing arts, whether it's music or visual arts or dance, keeping it alive. And so that we get to Chicago and all around the world, we get to learn about these artists who you may have, heard of or maybe not, but Chicago has always been this thriving city of great music and some of everything great. And so I feel honored because me, Katherine Davis, I'm able to pick these artists who are also my friends to show them off and tell their stories about who they are and their contributions to the music industry here and around the world. I'd like to thank New Rhythm Arts Center, Alicia Hempling, and Alex Robinson for being part of this team to help us to keep this program going. We give it many titles, and so I don't know if we gave it a title or not, but it's okay as long as we're here and we have special artists and we have an audience such as yourself, wonderful artists, wonderful audiences, and Facebook live stream to be able to show off. I like to show off our artists because I think they're very special. And in my own way, from a blues woman's perspective. And so here we are today on this day. This is almost the end. This is the end of the year, November 21st, 2021. And we are still in this pandemic, and we've been 2 years, almost 2 years. You may as well say it feels like longer. But here we are. And we are still like trying to, what are we supposed to do? Survive, right? We're trying to survive in whatever way that we can. And because we're artists, our survival is continually to create art, to create music, to look at the whole world and be able to find something to create some kind of to create music or lyrics.
Just to stay inspired.
To something to inspire us and hope that we're inspiring others. So Reginald, do you feel that same way? That because a lot of people with the isolation and everything, it was like they went to a standstill, a stop, and didn't know what else to do.
Yeah, yeah.
But as an artist, it was like I was finding all kinds of ways of creating something that was going on according to what was, happening,
Yeah. For me, it's since the pandemic, it's been a matter of staying inspired. I've been doing it though. I've been doing pretty good.
You've been doing pretty
Been
good.
doing pretty good.
Me too.
Yeah, I've been writing some
I ain't
music.
complaining.
No, me neither. I've been doing pretty good. I've been composing, continuing to compose, and it's just that the thing of not being able to perform in front of a live audience, that took a toll on me for a little while. And this whole virtual performance thing, as a musician, as a performer, we love performing in front of live audiences.
Now tell me this, you come from Chicago.
Yes.
And you came from what? The west side of Chicago,
West side of Chicago,
right?
yeah.
And you grew up in the projects, right?
Yes, I did.
So
Henry Horner Homes. Yes.
Henry Horner Homes.
Yep.
So, and I came from Cabrini Green. So it's like everything that you have created up to now, where you are in life, everything from coming from there, it's like there's no end to creating. You can find ways of creating something from whatever we had growing up.
I'll tell you this: when we were, my family when we lived in the Henry Horner Homes. I got 3 older brothers. We would find things to do. We would find creative things, and sometimes we get in trouble. My mom would tear us up because we would get her. What do you call those things? Like the little rollers, the little cushion rollers with the plastic things inside them, like the little hard plastic things.
No.
And she would clamp in rollers.
Curler hair.
The
curlers.
Yeah, we would take
curlers, and you take that stretchy thing.
Yeah,
and click.
right.
Yeah.
We would take those little things like they look like hands, right? And we would take them out of the things and make little men out of them, and get on the stove and melt them these things together and make little toys out of them. And she's like, "You're messing with my stuff."
With her curlers.
Yeah, we mess with her curlers. We mess with her head thing, wig thing of the
wig
foam.
head.
Yeah, we mess put draw on it, and
Draw faces on.
Yeah, she could get to tear us up for that. But so we found things to do, even from things like that to also learning how to draw art. Like, so we learned how to illustrate and all that by tracing. We would take up comic books.
Trace your hand with the pencil.
Oh no!
And paper.
My father would get all these comic books, so he was like really big on that, all the Marvel comics in DC back in the day. And we would, my brothers found a clever way to take. Well, we took our school paper and would put it on the window and trace the images, and that was a way to teach us how to draw.
Visual art.
Yeah, and it was like, wow. I mean, I watched them do that. After a while, after they traced so long, they were able to draw on their own without needing to look at anything, And each one of them developed a wonderful style of art, including myself, back then.
And see, for us, it was like you take a piece of paper and a pencil and you draw your hand and everything, and you zigzag and all that, and then your little sister and brother will come and with the pencil and scrabble all over there, and then your artwork became trash, and then you just ball it up and threw it away. And so now, working at the Smart Museum Visual Arts, here it is. I'm looking at all this abstract art with all the kinds of just these expressions of whatever is being. It's like, what made you think that, to do that, to draw that, to color that color? What did you use? What did you make? Was it paper or was it canvas? What was it and everything? So I didn't learn to appreciate visual arts until later. And here you are. You're saying that you took plastic curlers, them little hard things that it was hard to sleep in.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Your curls so tight, and your brains would be curled up in. And here you were melting them and everything,
making men
out of them. And I remember we had the bald-headed dolls we had bald-headed dolls that didn't have hair, and and the dolls that could only pee, and you give You know, it was like, what else can you do with this doll with no clothes or anything?
Yeah,
so we'd take the head off, and, you know, my brothers would use the doll's head and with the baseball bat, and we'd play ball with the doll's head and stuff. So, I
We
mean,
find creative things to do once
We
the
did.
toys become boring. Yeah. Yeah. We took flour. That was one thing. And this is stuff that people don't know. We would take the flour, go on my mom's flour. Boy, she have a fit. We were like the little rascals sometimes, you know. We go in her flour and put water in the flour, right, and make it into
Artificial
clay.
flour?
Yeah, like the flour, cooking, flour.
Oh, cooking flour.
Yeah, go into her stuff and, you know. Then we would take it and make it like, you know, like it was like gooey, like, and it became like clay. And we would make shape, like mold and shape these little statues. And
Play-Doh.
Yeah, Play-Doh. That, you know, when our Play-Doh got hard,
we was Play-Doh.
Yep. So stuff like that, you know. Yeah. So yeah, we would create. I was, you know, creating stuff back then in the Henry Horner. So
And little did you know that it was going to lead you to who you are today.
yeah.
Ain't that something?
Yep.
The
So-
memories of that, just playing with just whatever you had, you know, to play with. We didn't have, like my brother, and this is true. My brother was gay, right? And here I am. For Christmas, he would get GI Joes, and you know he was like, well, GI Joes. He didn't want GI Joes. He wanted the baby dolls. But we wanted back then. It was Chatty Cathy because she told everything. And back then they would say that I was a tattletale too, so I always wanted Chatty Cathy, but I didn't have Chatty Cathy. I always had the bald head doll that only came with a diaper or something in a bottle, you know, that would pee. So I was like, there's nothing that was there, right? But all of that was leading to who we are today and the memories of that. And all those memories are all valuable because we survived. Whatever we had, we were able to survive from all of that. And leading us into the music of today, telling our stories, to our feelings, to our emotions, to counting and, you know, and being able to express ourselves in whatever way we knew how and stuff. And so, you know, at first I used to think, man, you know, oh, woe is me. I don't have this, have that. And, you know, TV was showing that everybody could have whatever they wanted to have, but we couldn't. And so but we went around that, and we didn't let that, what we saw on TV or what we didn't have, we didn't let that stop us. And I don't know, did you grow up with a piano in your home?
No, we didn't have a
We didn't have a piano.
musical instrument.
I didn't know. I knew one family in the projects that had a piano in the home, but we had music. We had the records, record players. And we had
my mom too. She
singing
used to,
groups. There was a lot of singing groups. And, a lot of dances we made up because Chicago made it popular, made the dances all popular from all the hit songs that was out. So,
my mom used to she had a lot of records. She would throw.
You still have them?
Well, there's a few of them left now, but a lot of them are broken and gone. But
I bet you our audience would.
They're like 40. They're like 45s.
45.
Yep. Some of them are pretty old. That can go back to like the 60s.
You should keep those because records and albums are now. I hear that they're very, very valuable right now.
Okay. Yep. She used to throw these parties. I guess you could say house parties.
House parties.
Yeah, house parties, and we couldn't be. We were kids, so we couldn't hang around that.
Where did you have to go in the room?
Go in our rooms.
room?
Yeah, we'll look at TV and talk.
That was me.
And they had the music playing up loud, and we would sneak out and watch them and laugh because they were doing all these dances. And back in the day, you know, like what is Mama doing? You know, what kind of dance is that? You know, it was funny just to look out and see what the grown folks were doing. You know.
Yeah.
Yep. But those are the days, 1970s for me. Yep. Early 80s. And
so, and here in Chicago now, so even though we were still some things were different about our ways of growing up, but we pretty much shared the same experiences of what we saw, what was put in our neighborhoods, you know, what was put in our schools, what was put there for us to either break us down or build us up. And we had to build ourselves up. We found ways. And I think that in the music industry, that no matter what we face, it's a way to build us up. And so, like during this pandemic, for me, when it first came out last year, I saw it as disadvantage to instead of being isolated. But now it was like I was so busy before that I didn't never sit down. I was always going. Now I couldn't go nowhere. I had to stay in the house, and I was like, well, let me start working. Let me start working on some songs. Let me see what's going around, how people feel, and how they dealing with all this. Let me start write some lyrics and
you found a way to use the time constructively.
And you remember I was calling you all the time.
Yeah.
Because I was on the keyboard making something up, and I'll call you, and you was always so nice to me and just take the time out to listen to me play something that was so meaningful for me.
You know what?
Because you had
the thing is I know what it was like. I had nobody to, when I was learning how to I was teaching myself music. I had nobody I could go to ask for, what do I need to do here? What should I do? Or, what do I do at this point? I've done this, and, I had nobody to listen, to tell me, give me any direction. My brothers didn't know music like that. My older brother, who was playing music, the guitar, before me, he didn't know music to that level. I was, starting to...
Did he own a guitar?
He had a guitar. My mom, he was the first person in the family that was playing music. And that's what inspired me to want to play music. In fact, we had a neighbor next door who had a band, and they would go and do local shows. And
so were you all having talent shows and basement parties?
We didn't have any talent shows. We were like homebodies. We heard these guys though. They were next door playing their music, and we could hear them on a clear day, like a summer day when it was quiet. We could actually hear them practicing because they were like next door to us, the apartment building next to our own. Yeah,
and nobody complained at all, did they?
Nope. And so we would see them. They would be performing at Austin Town Hall and just local spots in the city. And they were this guy was more like the leader of the group was more followed after Prince, because Prince was popular during that time, early '80s. Mm-hmm. And so that was the thing. My brother, he started listening to Jimi Hendrix and every Chuck Berry, whoever whoever had music that would inspire him, he was listening to their music. And so he started listening to old swing music from the late 1930s and 40s, and that inspired me. In fact, he wanted me to listen to these tunes that he had taped down on cassette tape, and I would hear him listening to it every night. And all this music, Jimi Hendrix, and he had a huge collection of stuff that he was taping down off the radio. And so that inspired me. The ragtime didn't come along, though.
Where did that come from for you? You didn't hear that growing up.
Well, we heard it, as you would know. We heard it on. It was on every summer. You hear it on the ice cream truck.
Okay,
so I never knew what it was.
Ice cream truck.
Yeah, I never knew what it was. I never knew what that was. I just would hear it, this melody, along with other melodies.
And what was the melody?
I could play it if you like.
Play it. Yeah. Play it.
This is what I thought was the ice cream truck song. You had no title. Okay.
Yeah. I remember. Ice cream. Mama, can we have an ice cream? Yeah, the ice cream man coming. You hear him coming? Woo! Ice cream. Stop. Wow. And what's that piece called?
Thank you. Well, I found out later on, some years later, I heard, I've been hearing it on the ice cream truck for years since I was a baby, but I've come to find out years later it was called The Entertainer.
The Entertainer.
Yeah, it was by the same composer of the first piece I played, the Maple Leaf Rag. That so yeah, Scott Joplin was the composer.
Right,
yeah.
Scott Joplin.
Yeah.
So what was the fascination there for for
That
you to like?
Well, I could tell you a little bit about it.
Like his spirit was talking to you or something?
Something like that. I don't know.
Came over you in your sleep and woke you up and said, "Hey, Reginald."
For me, it was like when you hear the piece, it's talking, but there's no words, no actual words, you know. But you can hear the words in the melody. It's like to me, it's magical. His music, Scott Joplin's music, sounded magical. You can hear all this emotion. It sounds happy, but then there's something about it too that sounds a little sad, you know. And it just caught me as like really mysterious. That's the best way I can explain it.
And we didn't know anything about Scott Joplin or any of those other artists because that wasn't introduced to us to say that who were the artists, where did it come from, what was the meaning of it, and how was it to, we just accepted it because it was the way it was. You accept whatever came to you in your neighborhood because you figure it was with ice cream. They decorated this music not knowing who created this music, but the ice cream was more important. Yeah. And with everything else as well.
That's true. I would say though, I didn't. Like everyone else, we had no idea what the music was on the ice cream truck. But we had one day at school, we had my school, we would have these assemblies, and once in a while we'd have these special assemblies, and one of the assemblies, and it came right on time. Because I just started getting into this old music, like big band music, and Kid Creole and the Coconuts were popular during that time. And my brother turned me on to his stuff, like, check this guy out, Friday night videos. One night they had played one video by Kid Creole and the Coconuts, and this tune was called Male Curiosity. It was from the movie Against All Odds. So that was like the one part of the soundtrack. And so Kid Creole was sort of like Cab Calloway, He kind of put you in mind of Cab Calloway, and I knew about Cab Calloway from the Blues Brothers, the movie, and so, but I was introduced to these people, but I never really thought about really studying their music or anything. But
and that was rare, especially growing up in the projects.
Yeah, but this was after the projects. We moved further down. We moved further west. We left the projects in like '78. And moved further west. We moved to the Austin neighborhood, and that was good. That was my grandfather's building, but that's when I started. Some years later, I got into ragtime. But my brother was to open the doorway sort of to that, because with this old music, this big band music, and at that time, like 1980, I think even a little earlier, like there was this guy that came out named Taco, and he had a tune called he redid "Putting on the Ritz." I know you may remember that. He did Put It on the Wrist. That was on I think that was on like one of the video, like Friday night videos or something like that, way back. That was a little earlier. I think that was like 1982. And so that was like very early introduction to ragtime music for me, because there's a part in that song that goes into, I think it goes into Alexander's Ragtime Band. I didn't know what it was though until years later. I said, oh, wait a minute, that's Alexander's Ragtime Band, right? But which was an old tune that came out in 1911. Right. Yeah.
I used to sing that.
Yeah. And so for me, like, we had this assembly. For me, it was like right on time, because I was just getting into all this old music, and I didn't know what ragtime was, but we had this assembly, and it was about 5 guys in the group.
You got this from school, right?
Yeah, this assembly. Yeah, this happened in 7th grade. 7th grade, yep, 1986. And I was in 7th grade, and the musicians, they put on a show called From Bach to Bebop. And the name is self-explanatory. They covered all the different styles of music very quickly on, I think it was a Friday, and the kids were like anxious and ready to go home and making a lot of noise. And I could hear past all this noise, the MC said...
What school were you?
Robert Emmett Elementary School, right at Central and Madison and Washington and Pine.
Wow. Are they still there?
I drove past there today. This school was closed down. Oh. Yeah, that was part of one of those schools that was shuttered, when the mayor came in.
Yeah.
Previous mayor. Yep. And but yeah, we had this assembly, and the MC said that, he said this next style we're gonna play is the style's called ragtime. And I was like, oh, Ragtime, okay. And they played the ice cream truck song I just played. And I was like, wow, wait a minute. I know that song. That's the ice cream truck song. I never knew. I don't know if they mentioned the name of the tune at the time or if they even mentioned Scott Joplin's name. I didn't hear it because it was so much noise in this assembly that I was just trying to listen as best I could.
Were the students listening to it?
They really wasn't listening. He tried to, the MC tried to get them.
Ice cream.
Probably so, because it was Friday. They was ready to get out of there, right? So I remember the MC telling them to clap. He said that it was an offbeat. Ragtime was an offbeat. I remember that. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't quite know what that meant. But he said it was offbeat, so he tried to get one half of the audience of children to clap and the other half to clap. And I don't know how it was just chaotic.
Oh, so it was like
they were half doing everything. It was just yeah. But the important thing was afterward. I didn't focus on any of the music that came afterward, any of the bebop or anything that they played. I was more so focused on that ragtime. That's what interested me. So on my way home, walking up Washington Street, I was thinking like, wait a minute, what was the name of that style? He said, the guy said, he's like, ragtime. That's right. I was like, oh, well, I kind of panicked. I was like, I almost forgot what the name of them. Mm-hmm. So I took a piece of paper out of my book bag, and wrote that name down, ragtime. I said, I'm not going to forget it. When I get home, I'm going to find out as much as I can about this music. Mm-hmm. And that was it. That was the beginning of my studying, trying to find out about ragtime. And I'm glad that it was the way it was back then. In a way, it was difficult. Back then, this is before the internet. For us, nobody had no internet or anything like that. So you'd have to go to a library or, find something on the radio. Either go to a record store and buy records with the music on it, or go to a library and look in the book, and that's how I did my research. So your first
time sitting down at a piano, when you...
we didn't have a piano at the time.
So
the only person that had an instrument was my brother, and so after that assembly, I got home and I was like, man, I was just excited. I still didn't know who Scott Joplin was. His name hadn't come up yet. I just was thinking no ragtime, and so next week, I think the next week on Monday, my room, we had an encyclopedia in the back of my classroom, so that's when I found out about Scott Joplin, and I started reading his name under his name. No, I looked on the ragtime, and it mentions ragtime and offbeat. I said, oh, okay, that's what the MC was talking about, offbeat rhythm and all this, 2/4 time. And
so, what was your music before that?
Before then, I wasn't playing anything.
You wasn't.
I was trying to. Well, my brother would have us. Me and my brother, just older than me, he would have us accompany him on his home recordings, right? And
singing.
Yeah, we be singing background on stuff, or beating on a pie pan, or whatever little homemade instruments we could get. My mother had bongos. We would get like this secondhand bongo, from the secondhand store. So I would do that. So I still have those recordings at home. It's crazy.
So what about when you first sat down at a piano?
At a piano?
Were you nervous?
No.
How did you feel?
Well, I could tell you this. When I first got the piano was when my mom, I stayed on my mom and dad asking them about instrument, because I really was excited about ragtime music, and I was like, man, I want a piano like the guy. I want to play like the guy in the school, at the assembly. My mother finally got me. I think it was for Christmas. She got me a little small toy keyboard like this, like a Casio or something. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a Casio, some other kind of thing, but I remember playing on it. It was really she purchased this thing for the family.
About it too,
I was excited about it, but she purchased it for the family. It was not my piano, my keyboard. I was like, oh man, I wish it was mine, And so, but I kind of hogged this thing. I took it over. It became mine because I played on it all the time. They wouldn't play on it like I did, So, but I was excited. I recorded all of everything I was creating. I would tape the stuff down every day when I would come from school. After school, I would make up melodies.
So tape recorders were popular.
Yes, cassette tapes.
Yeah, cassette.
And so I just have all this stuff. Every little thing that I created back then when I was 13 years old, leading up the years, I made home recordings of all this stuff. But I was excited. The following year, though, my mother purchased a real piano when I graduated. That was in 1987. And right after I graduated in June of 1987, one day, like a couple days after I graduated, she came home and was like, look out at the front window. And I went and looked at the front window, and it was like there's this attach on to the car. It was like those wooden things with the wheels on. Mm-hmm. I don't know what you call them, but it for carrying stuff. and I saw a piano on top. I was like, oh wow, yeah. I was excited. I was like, man.
She knew.
Yeah, she got that piano, and I was like, I hope this mine. Is this my piano now? She's like, no, it's for the family. I was like, oh man, Mom, why you do this to me? Because you know they're not gonna play on it like I'll play on it. Basically became my piano because I practiced on it all the time, and I said I remember the thought that came to my mind. I was like, oh yeah, now I'm really gonna learn how to play the piano.
Wasn't it upright?
It was a full.
Spin-it,
it was a spin it. Yep, it was a spin-it piano, and it was there was a lady around the corner who was moving, and the piano was in really good condition. It was in good condition. Yep, and she was moving, but she didn't want to take the piano with her, so she was looking for someone to sell it to, and my mother just happened to come up on the lady, around the corner from where we lived. Yep, the lady was on Menard, the street, because we lived on Washington. We would be between Washington and Mayfield. No, she was on Mayfield, the street, which is west, and Menard is trying to get my directions right. We were between Menard and Mayfield. That was on Washington.
Menard runs north and south.
Yeah, it runs north and south.
Right.
So we were in between there on Washington. Yep. And so this lady was on Mayfield, right around the corner. And
so when you sat down, when the piano got in, they moved it in and set it in place. You sat, and it was like you were in awe. Yeah,
I was like, man, it was like a, for us, like having a video game. For me, that was the beginning of it. It was like having a new, like when we got Atari. We first got Atari in like 1981. I was like, man, if you got an Atari, it was like the thing that everybody's like, oh, you got a video game at home. Everybody want to come and sit down and play on you. Come to visit your home and play. For me, the excitement was to that level. I was very excited. I'm like, man.
So you had to worry about your brothers like pushing you out the way.
Oh yeah.
Saying, move. I want to play now.
In the beginning, yeah, it was like that. They would like, but they weren't interested in it like me. I really sat down and practiced.
You practiced every day.
I would, every day, and would try to sit at this. If I could sit at the piano all day, every day, I would do that. Eventually, we moved. In August of that year, we moved from my grandfather. That was my grandfather's home. We moved. My mother and father purchased a home on the south side, and we were in the back of the Yards neighborhood. And from there, that's when I really, because it was all this happened like within a few months. Me having an actual piano, 88 key piano, to us moving. That was from June to August. August 1st, we moved, and 1987, and we moved there, and that's where I started really learning all about ragtime music, and really start going to the record stores, and I used to go down on Wabash.
I mean, did they have music on ragtime in the record stores?
Yeah, they did. And Rose Records at that time.
Rose.
It's before Tower Records took over.
Okay, yeah. Rose Records was where?
It was right on Wabash, Adams and Wabash.
Yeah.
Right under the elevated train. Yep.
Yeah.
And yep. Different time.
I mean, did they have this music in our record stores? Because that part I don't remember. Maybe it was
they did. They had a section. They had a section on
only in rhythm and blues because that's what was popular.
Yeah,
R&B.
Yeah, they had a section on ragtime.
For ragtime.
I used to also get stuff. Once I got a few records from Rose Records, like the Biograph series. They had like a series of piano rolls, QRS piano rolls, of Scott Joplin's music. And
what is that?
The QRS was an old piano roll company that manufactured player pianos. And I think I'm saying it right. There was a company that created piano rolls for player
the
pianos.
Piano would play the rolls as you were playing, and it would
play self-playing rolls. Right, the keys would go down, and so they had records of these old piano rolls that Scott Joplin actually recorded in 1916. I was like really fascinated by that because there's no other recordings of Joplin known. He didn't make any records, audio records, but he did make piano rolls, about 6 of them, a few months before he died. So I was excited about that. But in the LP was a card where you can send off for more records, and I saw the catalog, and I was like, wow. So I started ordering stuff through what was this?
Sears.
No. It was just the catalog, the QRS catalog. No, the Biograph record.
Record company.
Yeah, they had a catalog.
So it was a theater too. Did the Biograph theater is same?
I'm not sure if it's the same, if they're connected.
Okay.
But the what is the company? The UPS. UPS, yeah, I used to order, and UPS used to ship this thing, bring it in, you know. So I was excited to find out about James P. Johnson and James Scott. These were like contemporary. James Scott was a little bit after. He was a little younger than Scott Joplin, and James P. Johnson was a little later. He came in like the 1910, 1911, and years like that. He was on the East Coast, but you know, that's how I found out about these guys, these musicians. And also listening to WBZ, if you remember.
WBZ helped me out a whole lot.
Oh,
I
yeah.
learned. That's why I really learned about
Steve
all
Cushing's
these classic
blues
artists like Ma Rainey, Bessie Smith, Ethel Waters, and Alberta Hunter, and
myself.
I learned about all those singers and musicians and everything. I was so fascinated with that. I was like, because we had Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and B.B. King and Etta James, and you know, when it came to blues, and then we had Nat King Cole and Dinah Washington and Sarah Vaughan and Billie Holiday. We had a lot of music, and we knew about names, but it was like you knew about them, but it was like they were unreachable. If you wanted, they only gave you enough to learn their names or who they were, but then nothing else was important until you realized that if you wanted to continue to do research. Now, with you as a researcher, you've met a lot of the children from all these pioneers.
A few of
Have
them.
you met any of Scott Joplin's children or family?
He didn't have any children. He did, but they, you know,
James P. Johnson?
James P. Johnson, I never met any of his family, but Scott Joplin's relatives, I met some of his family descendants. They were in Texarkana, which was his hometown. In fact, they still live down there. The ones that I met, they were on one of Joplin's brothers. His brother, Scott's brother, I should say. His brother, Robert Joplin. And I met his family descendants. And this was in 1999 because they came to Sedalia, Missouri, for the big festival there. They had like a centennial celebration of Scott Joplin's Maple Leaf Rag, which was published in Sedalia back in 1899. So the family came up from Texarkana, and I got a chance to meet them. The McDonalds, Leroy McDonald, and then the following year they invited me to come to Texarkana and play for a fundraiser because Leroy, he was a filmmaker, and he was trying to get funds together to make a Scott Joplin film, but that never did come to fruition, you know. But yeah, and I met his mom Lillian McDonald, she's since passed, and then there's La Irma White, who's Lillian's sister, younger sister, but they both elderly ladies. You know?
So you travel across country,
Yeah.
looking for this music in the libraries and in other historical places, and you hear
New York
about
Public Library,
family members who are who keep the archives.
Right. Yes, like Joe Jordan. Yeah. Now I did meet Joe Jordan's daughter. Joe Jordan was one of the popular composers. Not only did he write ragtime, he wrote jazz tunes as well. And he lived into like later years. He died. I think he died in about 1971. Around that time. I may be wrong.
A lot of them did live in Chicago too, didn't they?
He though Joe Jordan was more. A lot of them lived in Chicago. Joe Jordan was in Chicago for a while. He was the director of the Pekin Theater, which was on 2700 South State Street, and that was around 1903, 1904.
A lot of people don't know that Chicago had along State Street, South Side, which they call the South Loop, right? The south side of the loop.
At that time, it was called the Black Belt.
That whole district, it was called the Black Belt.
Yeah.
So there was like theaters. There was a whole music scene that was there, and people were coming in from everywhere, and you could meet all these performers that were performing in these clubs and theaters, and just it was thriving, and so we would call that. To me, we would call that as part of the Chicago Wall Street. Black Wall Street, because it was so big and popular, and people were the movers and the shakers and doing great things and had professions and and the music was just was pulling everybody together so strong. And then it of course because of the jobs, the fall of Wall Street, all that just faded away. And we're talking about the late 20s, right?
You're talking about the Great
It
Depression.
faded
yes.
away, and so now that's all empty space waiting for developers to go in there and make it into something that no one, unless you do your research. Unless you do research, you won't know what's sitting in an empty lot.
Yeah. I always tell people too that when I get on the subject of talking about what was later called Bronzeville, that it was sort of like a second home to people who are in Harlem. And it was kind of like there was a connection. There was like a route that black people performed on. There was a circuit. We could only perform in certain places, so we performed in Harlem. A lot of the musicians that were in Harlem were in Chicago. Same people.
Yeah.
Duke Ellington lived in Chicago. His sister, I believe his sister lived here. What's the guy? U.B. Blake. U.B. Blake was in Chicago. U.B. Blake and Noble Sissel. And but it was the place to be,
It was.
And Jelly Roll Morton was here, Of course, he was from New Orleans, but he came to Chicago, and this was like a second home to a lot of the musicians who were in New Orleans,
Yeah.
Louis Armstrong said he liked Chicago better than New York back in the day when he came to New York. I think he was left Chicago and went to New York in 1924. I guess I'm going off the point a little bit, but he left to go and play with Fletcher Henderson's band, and he didn't care for New York all that much. He came back to Chicago. It was like he said this was like home to him, So it was a second home to a lot of the people who are in Harlem,
Wow, I'm having so much fun with you. We're just talking about everything that's pertaining to all of this, who we are, what we do. Is it something that we can play? One of your videos, because you're on you're on social media too as well, aren't you? You have some videos out there. You did something at Navy Pier.
I did, yeah.
Recently this year, and then you did something else. Well, we were brainstorming each other's minds and everything. You do, you're active. Reginald Robinson is active, and he's working. Yes, he is working. Of course, he can have more work, and like we all can, put us out there. Don't forget about us, or assume that we don't need you, because we do need you as our listening audience, as our supporters out there in Facebook land, and all the social media land. We do need you to help keep us and what we do, which is very valuable. That makes sense. We play music that, and everything we do, it's to help make sense of what has been missing. A lot of our history is missing, still missing, and here we are telling stories about our life experience, what we saw, what we experienced growing up. And we're sure that you saw and experienced a lot of great things, or not great things, but maybe great. Now it's great because we're older now. But back then it may not have made sense because we had to piece things together. And we found ways of piecing things together, whether it was paper or pencil or plastic or metal or dirt or flour, cooking flour, or material, doll's heads. We did that. I was just saying, I'm telling a story about when penny loafers, this is before your time, penny loafers were very popular when I was growing up, and you had a penny in your shoe, right? You had a penny in each shoe. But for us growing up, a penny could buy 5 pieces of candy. So you didn't see too many black people with pennies in their penny loafers. So,
I was around for part of that, the end part of it with the penny candy. Yes.
Yeah. And so it was just you look at it now, and it is like, did it make sense, or does it make sense, or
Let me ask you this question. What's the sense of the penny and the penny loafer? What was it for?
Well, I don't know who created that stuff. It was a style.
Oh,
It was just a style
okay.
of shoe. You could put a penny. I don't know if it meant you had wealth or whatever, but it wasn't. Everybody have their own kind of meaning to it. Because you from the west side, I'm from the south side, or north side. North side first, then south side, and every side. But even still, we share so much in common with each other, and even with the style of music too, because on the south side, on the north side, you could listen to blues, but you could only listen to the recordings. You didn't go to a club and see live blues. On the south side, you could go to the lounges and hear some blues or hear some jazz. You could go to the west side, mainly back then, and hear some blues, because Wolf and Mud and all them were playing in those clubs or juke joints or whatever. Southside, Bronzeville was like, that was like, no, you don't, you listen to jazz. So, but we all in this city together, but we had these little dividing lines that say, well, you like this and, you're classy. It was all about class, but it all comes down to that everything is coming from the blues. It all comes from, us, upbringing and going to church, and hearing live music and hearing recordings. We didn't hear live music growing up. We only heard it on recordings until we got older, and then we saw, live music. Oh yeah, let me go on the party. R&B. I didn't know about till the rhythm and blues, like Supremes, Motown. 60s, 70s. That's when we went to the Regal Theater, to hear these live performers perform all together. So for you, like, was the Regal Theater still around when you were growing up?
Not it probably was. I'm not sure, but maybe my parents.
Your parents were strict.
They may have went there. Yeah, they would.
They went there.
They probably went there, but I don't. We didn't. I never been to the Regal. Only place I've been was the Chicago Theater, and that was like to see a movie. Yeah,
right.
At that point.
Right, and it was about respect too. Respect, because we had to respect, what they said and what they did and everything, because that was the way it was, and they chose what we were supposed to like. They chose that, and we didn't get to choose what we wanted too much.
Well, I can say one thing: my parents did allow me, and that's one thing I want to. I'm always ever grateful to them for. They were open and let us listen to whatever we wanted to listen to, and you wouldn't believe it. I mean, we listened to Elvis Presley.
We were too. Connie Francis.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. I was listening to Benny Goodman and Tommy Dorsey.
Doris Day.
Yeah, Doris Day. My mom listened to Doris Day. Yep.
I wanted to be her. I wanted, because the movie she was in, she was so pretty and sang so pretty, and men loved it. She was innocent and all that. I wanted to be like her.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like Judy Garland, but I wanted to be like Connie Francis, Where the Boys Are, and Doris Day and stuff. So tell me this. Hold on, I want to ask you something because time is ticking. I asked you, who are you? You did something on video, and I was going to ask you, who is Joe Jordan? Are we able to show the video with Reginald and Joe Jordan?
Playing Joe Jordan's music, yeah.
Oh, playing his music.
Yeah.
Oh, playing his music.
He was who I told you. He was who I told you. I interviewed his daughter.
Okay.
Her name was Marie Jordan, and I interviewed her back in 2008.
Oh, who I was thinking about was you and John Weber.
Oh, John Weber.
Yeah, but who is Joe Jordan? So Joe Jordan, he was
a contemporary.
Earlier.
He was a contemporary of Scott Joplin.
Okay. And you're playing on the video.
On the video, yeah. I play two of his pieces.
Can we listen to that, Alex? Okay. Enjoy, everyone. musician. Man, Reginald, I feel so honored. I feel
Thank
so
you.
honored to know you and you going in this direction of, is there competition out there
For
for
me,
you?
I'm not. I've never been a competitor of any. I never feel like I've had people. It's people that probably.
Because you have your own way, your own
Right, I
style.
just create music from the heart.
From
So I'm
the
not
heart.
competing against anybody, but there may be people that feel like I'm competition for them. I'm not sure. I don't. But I
Right,
never.
because it's real for
Yeah,
you.
yeah, it's real for me. So-
It's like I've heard many say that you are a reincarnation of Scott Joplin. I heard that
my
when
mom
I first
said.
met
My
you.
mom and dad said that. Isn't that
Yeah,
funny?
your reincarnation is like the spirit said, "Oh, we heavens open because we got Reginald. All right, yeah. So bring it on, bring everything in. So and plant that seed inside him, so he can represent us." That's how I felt with Ma Rainey and Bessie and all those artists, pioneers. I want to represent them because I feel like I can do it well, and keep it, like the authenticity of it.
Yeah.
I can do that, and that's what you can do,
Yeah.
because from your heart.
Yeah.
And you still learning about it because you don't know
Yeah.
why you were chosen, but
That's
you
the
know you were
truth.
chosen.
Yeah, that's the truth. I'm still learning about
still
ragtime.
learning.
I'm still learning from Scott Joplin's music. I was telling my brother this the day just yesterday morning we were talking, and I said, "Can you believe it? We were talking when I was 14 years old about ragtime. Here it is now. I'm 49, 49, and I'm still talking about ragtime.
You're 49 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, I knew you when you was ooh,
20, right? Yep,
Yeah.
20, right? Yep. Time move on.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm still sitting up here talking about ragtime, and I'm still finding out more and more about Scott Joplin. He was so smart. He had so many ideas. He was way ahead of his time,
When you say way ahead of your time, in what way?
In his time, he was way ahead of his time. He had ideas and things that people were doing years later. They hadn't gotten to. They couldn't
Like
understand.
what era?
In the 1920s, 1930s.
Uh-huh.
There was things he was doing, and in fact, his tune, Pineapple Rag. There's blues, and I don't play
So
pineapple.
everything had the name rag at the end
Well,
of it.
not necessarily, because he has a piece. Some of his pieces don't have rag at the end. People just put rag on the end, like Weeping Willow. Weeping Willow is one of his tunes. It's just Weeping Willow. It doesn't not called Weeping Willow Rag, but another piece, Sugarcane. Some people say Sugarcane Rag, but I was looking at this yesterday, looking at the sheet music. I said, wait a minute. There ain't no rag at the end of this. It's just sugarcane. Right, yeah. So some of his tunes are just...
Now, do they have lyrics to some of these songs?
Some of his tunes do have lyrics. Maple Leaf Rag was actually, I think, a guy named Henry Jackson, who was a good friend of Scott Joplin's. Way back in the 1890s, they were good friends, and Henry Jackson wrote lyrics to Maple Leaf Rag. Yep.
There's so much of our music that still hasn't really surfaced enough to capture all these young artists today. It's almost time. These young artists today. All right. Thank you all so much. Welcome. Hey, and welcome. And for you, those of you just joined us, it's time for us to take off now. My special guest this evening is the incomparable Reginald R. Robinson, and we had an amazing conversation.
Yes. We have to do
about
it
our
again.
music.
Yeah.
We have to do it again. Yeah. We thank you all so much for coming and joining us and being with us and following us and, and supporting us in whatever way, being here with us and, and enjoying your evening with us, because we definitely enjoy what we're doing. And we will be back next Sunday. I believe I'm having a house party here. I'm having a house party here with, I'm going to have Bill McFarland on trombone, Roger Weaver on keyboards, and Bugs Cochran on drums, and myself vocals, and we're going to do like a jazz jam. So we're inviting all musicians to come right here at the New Rhythm Arts Center, and you can come here to the center. And we're going to keep it going. We have some other things. Erwin Helfer is going to come back. They're doing a documentary on him.
Oh, really?
On December 5th, and it's going to be held here at the New Rhythm Arts Center. We're going to have special guests.
Wonderful.
Donna Harula is going to be one of our special guests. And I done made a mistake. Don't say I forgot. Anyway, I would blame it on whatever. But we want to say thank you. Everybody say thank you, Reginald.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me, Katherine.
And so we hope to see you again. Have a beautiful week and enjoy and do as much as you can to enjoy it. And happy Thanksgiving to you all. Be safe. Take care. And peace and love to you. Thank you, Reginald.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. You'll be back.